Jesus freak here. So you might ask, I know most of my viewership is diametrically opposed to me politically, as someone who is politically left to center. And yet, I keep posting videos of left-wing protests. And you might wonder why that is. There is, I guess there's two basic commonalities here that I have, even though I don't always agree with everyone on everything. The first is that as someone with disabilities, the stance of the Republican Party since I was a kid to be outwardly hostile to people like myself. This idea that people with disabilities waste oxygen that I've seen from so many people growing up. And ending up forced into that situation. I was trying to play by the book. And I'm sure this is a story many people younger than me can relate to, and maybe less so people my age, because this is more a millennial thing, and I'm not technically a millennial. I'm not Generation X either. But this whole thing that, we played by the book and still get screwed. I tend to believe that we got to look out for each other. That's just not human nature. Human nature is I, me, mine. And that's why I think, social safety nets and stuff have to exist to help those who may not be able, either because of their own issues or because of external pressure, to help themselves. The other, and this is going to be much more complex, people talk about Christian nationalism and about, religious groups trying to take over the government. What a lot of them seem not to notice is that there's 3 different Christian nationalist movements all vying for the government. And right now they're working together. You see, one of these groups is Pentecostal charismatic. This is the New Apostolic Reformation. This is Paul White and people like that. Her response to Trump losing 2020 was to call upon God to change the results of the election. And that's where you got the strike victory thing. Then you have the Rushdunites, which are Calvinists. They're following a guy named R.J. Rushduni, who, when he was around, he preached the idea that the U.S. needs to be run not under the Constitution, but under the Pentateuch. Which, of course, flies in the face of stuff like the entire letter to the Galatians. And a lot of other parts of the New Testament. The third group, and they're just starting to come out in the open. They've been working at this probably a longer time than both other groups put together, multiple times over. It's called Opus Dei. And I'm sure, there's always lots of conspiracy theories when it comes to the Church of Rome. But that's what Opus Dei is. They're a movement within the Church of Rome to basically establish the Vatican as supreme over the rest of the world. Basically to install the Pope as the king of the world. The phrase Opus Dei is Latin for the work of God. And I've said this before, when people think or appear to think that they're doing the work of the Lord, not even God himself is going to stop them. I mean, I say that with some sarcasm, but seriously. Now, all of these groups want some sort of theocracy. And they're willing to work together to get that. That's how you can have people like, Joel Webbin or Pete Hegseth, who are connected with the Rushdoonyism. You'll have Paula White, even arguably Trump himself, who are connected with New Apostolic Reformation. And you'll have J.D. Vance, who is associated more with Opus Dei. They're all working together because they have a common goal. Once one of them achieves that goal, they're going to turn on the others. And they're not just going to turn on the others. They're going to turn on all other people who are believers. I get caught in the middle of a lot of evangelical versus mainliner things all the time, being that I'm somewhere on the fault line between the two. So, I'm very familiar with Christian on Christian combat. In a couple videos, you saw one of the protest signs I had. It quoted Micah 6:8 in Spanish. When I was at No Kings 3 in Hyde Park in Niagara Falls, I had that sign, an English sign with the same text, and a shirt referencing the same verse. I don't go there entirely for political reasons. I actually, religion or some religious aspect is part of why I involve myself in those political rallies. Because ultimately, the bigger threat, the tail wagging the dog here, and in so many other cases, is Christian nationalism. And, you got multiple Christian nationalisms. And they're a threat not only to each other, but to other Christians who are not of their ilk. That's where I'm coming from here. Jesus, freak out.